Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to today's live stream. Chris, thank you very much for agreeing to do this. So today we're going to be talking about relapse prevention. Before we get into it, Chris, I just want to quickly make sure that I've shared the link to all of the channels, so that anybody that wants to participate can just click on the link and hop on and ask any questions or get in on the discussion with us.
Okay. I'm just going back to the streaming stuff now. There we go. I can see you again.
Okay. Just another minute. Yeah, but let's just see here. Cool. One more share. Okay. That done. Cool. Okay, Chris. So we've got a couple of minutes with you. Load shedding messed us around, unfortunately. So yeah. we've got you until about 10:02. So what I want to do is I want to just go through this worksheet titled "Early Warning Signs of Relapse," and we can have a bit of a conversation around it.
Okay.
Okay. So early signs of relapse. Hey, Stefan. How you doing, man?
Fine, thanks, and you?
Good.
Hey, Stefan.
Hey, Chris.
Okay, so in addition to external pressures, our attitudes, thoughts, and behaviors play a key role in relapse. Learning about early warning signs can help you avoid going back to drinking, using, or other addictive patterns. This exercise will help you identify your personal warning signs, stop the relapse process, and turn it around before you pick up, drink, or drug and return to addictive behavior. So when a person picks up a drink or drug, walks to a casino, or otherwise returns to an addiction, that's the contemplation, the completion of the relapse process, not its beginning. Before that happens, there are many warning signs. Knowing the warning signs can help you cut the process short and stay in recovery. Okay, so number one, relapse-related changes in thinking may include persuading yourself that some new method of controlled drinking, drug use, gambling, etc. will work. Remembering the good times and overlooking the problems. Thinking of addictive actions as a reward for success or a way to celebrate. Or believing that one cannot succeed in recovery. Please list specific examples of how your thinking changed before your last relapse or similar changes you've seen in others. So that's interesting, Chris. I just want to get my mouse back here. So the relapse process, what they're saying is the relapse process doesn't sort of just happen one day out of the blue impulsively, right? It sort of takes it's a process, and there's so please list some specific examples of how your thinking changed before your last relapse or similar changes you've seen in others. Have you got any that you can talk to us about?
Well, for me, I think the most important thing is that a lot of guys get overconfident, especially if they've been clean for a while. They kind of stop putting the work in, they stop the learning, they stop attending meetings, kind of complacency tends to set in. And so a lot of guys who kind of have come in and we've chatted to, who've relapsed, have said, you know what, I thought I had it. And the thing with addiction is it's a real bugger. I mean, addiction kind of is able to pinch your weaknesses. It's able to kind of enter into every single little part of you where there's the potential for you to battle and to struggle. And as it does that, it kind of is able to target those points. So if you're not aware, if you're not kind of practicing self-awareness on a daily basis, if you're not kind of saying, well, what are my thoughts? What are my emotions? What am I feeling? Where am I going? It can lead you into this place where, well, kind of, I know it all now. I've done it for a few weeks, a few months. I got this. It's sorted. One thing that I think is so important when it comes to recovery is that kind of continuous learning, continuous kind of educating yourself, taking yourself forward, doing the work that goes with it. Because make no mistake, recovery is all about work.
Yeah. So I know people have said that if you're not growing, if you're not working on your recovery, you're working on your relapse, right? So there's
Absolutely.
there's no sort of standing still.
Yeah.
In terms of that process.
And I think also at the same time, the important thing is to be able to focus not so much on relapse, but on recovery. I think when you kind of focus on relapse and all your thoughts are about relapse, you're kind of almost setting yourself up, because everything you're doing is kind of based on the negative. But if you're in a place where you're sitting and saying that this is really about my recovery, this is about taking my life forward, about making more positive choices for myself, then you kind of set yourself up in order to achieve things in a much more kind of substantial manner than otherwise, I think.
Yeah. So it's, I know Bobby C, who we do a lot of live videos with. He often says, what the mind conceives, it achieves. Okay, so if you sit around and you meditate all day long on sort of, the negatives. So another thing sort of that comes to mind for me is, and this is probably maybe ties in with a bit of a thought stopping process, but I don't know if you remember, there used to be those you remember Mainstay, that alcoholic drink? I think it was Mainstay. Or
you can change your life, or you can change to Mainstay.
So I don't know if it was a Mainstay advert or if it was like a cigarette advert. It was back in the day, and they used to show these people on this yacht, or like all these beautiful yachts, and they were having this grand time, and drinking and sort of I know for me it's like when you think about drinking, it like one would think it would be all nice and pleasant and all the rest of it, but in the alcoholic's case, or in the person with an addiction problem's case, they don't sort of play the movie right to the end where the yacht's burning and everybody's sort of like abandoning ship. So
no, you're spot on. I think kind of what people do is, whether it's drugs or whether it's alcohol, is they kind of play it up to a point, and it's kind of, well, the relief, the joy, whatever else I'm going to feel, but they don't play that whole movie through. And I think it's one of the ways kind of dealing with the cravings that come is to learn to play that whole movie through, to be able to say, actually, you know what, the implications of that first use kind of are crazy for me. Yeah. It's kind of like some of the guys who come out and say, well, I'm not going to stop, I'm just going to control it. Yeah. And after a while, kind of some of my outpatients have kind of started talking and saying, well, I think I can control it now, and the rest of it. As soon as you start changing your thinking in that way, kind of you setting yourself up for failure again.
Well, Chris, I mean, I asked you about this last week, I think it was. I asked the treatment team in general, like, is it okay to condone, so somebody that lands up on our doorstep at the rehab, right? Yeah. They arrive there in a bad way generally. Okay, so they arrive there because they've got serious problems, and it's not just sort of run of the mill. I'm having a tough time. It's like things are tough. Okay. Yeah. So my question was, is it okay to sort of let somebody believe that they can possibly moderate, or work with them in terms of them wanting to moderate? So that was my question. Is that, is that something that's okay? And, I gave that some thought as well. I mean, again, it sounds like, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, it sounds like something disconnected for a second here. I don't know what's going on. Okay, so it sounds, what was I saying? Yeah, so they arrive in a bad way, and obviously cannot control their drinking. They wouldn't arrive, on our doorstep if they could.
Yeah.
So yeah, difficult to to condone that kind of thing, to condone, to let somebody believe that they can moderate?
Oh, absolutely. I don't kind of believe you can come into this place and think you can go out and control it. The reasons that got you into ARC in the first place. And those reasons were because kind of your substance use, whether it's alcohol and drugs, had kind of taken over your life and was overwhelming you. So 21 days, 24 days is kind of just the start of a process.
Absolutely.
You're starting to kind of identify who you are, where you are, what's kind of moving forward with it. So that process doesn't kind of end the minute you leave ARC. I kind of, and Stefan will know this from our sessions, I kind of liken ARC to being pre-season training in sport. It's the place where you go to get fit, the place where you go to kind of learn new tactics, to learn more about yourself, to learn more about your opponent, in this case, addiction. And so that when you kind of go out and you're faced with those kind of games, that you've got the skills and tools to put it into action. But this is just the start. If you kind of come into this place with this predetermined outcome of saying, well, I'm going to kind of go out and going to control my use, I don't think you're fully committed to the program and where you are.
Yeah. And in terms of relapse preventions, so I mean, that's obviously with reference to people that are sort of early in the game. Okay.
Yeah.
But I think relapse prevention is something that really applies to somebody that might be 2, 3, 4,
Sure.
7, 8 years into the game, and it's easy to become complacent. I know that from my own experience. It's easy to become very complacent when you've got a number of years under your belt, and you kind of like, oh well, do I really need to continue doing all of those things that I was doing in the early days? And I mean, I think there are some things that you could probably let go of, but that also again becomes dangerous thinking, hey?
Yeah, I think that the thing is that there's got to be consistency. And as soon as consistency kind of wears off in the work that we do for our recovery, then there becomes a problem.
Yeah.
That we're talking about our lives. We're talking about a lifelong commitment to ourselves, to getting our lives back on track into a place where we're looking better after ourselves, better after the people we love, the people who we're around, and making positive choices. Yeah. So as soon as we kind of sit back and we stop doing that work, we stop being consistent, we allow kind of all of these other thoughts to kind of overwhelm us. It creates that opportunity for a relapse to occur at that point.
Yeah. Okay, so
I agree fully with you. I've seen some of my kind of guys, everything's going so well for them kind of in their recovery. And then suddenly just one tiny little thing comes along that beforehand they were able to deal with whatever emotions they were faced with, whatever challenges were coming their way. But one little thing comes and they want to start falling apart again. Yeah. And it's about saying to them, you know what, having a bad day just means it's a bad day.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that things are kind of going wrong. It's about being in this place where you're able to kind of sit and say, it's my life and I have control over my life. I see what kind of they're saying about alcohol controlling them, and that's exactly what it does. But that's why recovery work is so important, because it helps you bring control back. It helps you kind of create ownership of your own life again going forward.
So we've got a couple of minutes left before you have to go, Chris, but I just want to say, so you mentioned, having a bad day and then sort of not letting that define the rest of your existence. So in a lot of ways, so I remember phoning up my sponsor or my accountability partner, and I called him up and I was like, geez, I've had the most amazing day. I woke up, I had some all brand flakes, and I went to the gym, and things are they're going really well. And there was a bit of a pause on the other end of the line, and he said, sorry to me. And he said, well, Ryan, that's great, but just just know that it's not going to last. And I was like, oh, that's a miserable thing to say to somebody that's and he responded, he said, well, just remember, in the same way that the good days don't last, the bad days don't last either,
Exactly. And I think kind of we got to get into that point where we're able to recognize that a bad day is just a bad day and a good day is just a good day. They are just days. It's about what we do with the days, how we respond to them, where we put our energy that matters as we go forward. And I think often a lot of what happens is kind of we get so sucked into the immediacy of the feelings and kind of where we are that we forget about kind of all of the tools and everything else that we've got to be able to take it forward from there.
Yeah. Okay, Chris. So we're on 12:50. Do you have more time?
We still got quick question. Yeah, sure.
Okay,
sure.
Cool.
We can go until about 12:58. That's no problem.
12:58. Cool. All right. So number 2. Emotions and attitudes also change as a person's drifts towards relapse. Determination, optimism, teamwork, and motivation may be replaced by forms of negativity such as apathy, selfishness, and a feeling that being unable to drink, use, gamble, or so on is undeserved punishment. Please list specific examples of how your attitudes changed before your last relapse or similar changes you see in others. That's quite an interesting one. Any comments on that, Chris?
I think a lot of our work is actually helping people regulate their emotions, be in a place where you're able to kind of, first of all, know and identify what your emotions are, because it's kind of amazing how many people, when we sit down with them and talk through emotions with them, aren't able really to kind of identify where they are, what their feelings are, and kind of how they take it forward. So being able to understand your emotions and being able to know what emotions you're feeling at each time is kind of the first thing that we help people do, and just give them the opportunity to be able to learn and take things forward from there. And then once you know what your emotion is, to be able to know kind of what triggers that emotion, you can also sit and say, well, how do I gain control over it? Because again, just like we were saying, a day is just a day, an emotion is just an emotion. And what it's about the meaning we give to that emotion and the power we give to that emotion. So if we can learn how to kind of control that, if we can learn to be in a place where we kind of bring that back to us, then it makes a major difference and change. And we're able to deal with that.
I think what makes the Maria Cafe initiative really a great thing for a tool for people is that, when you have those emotions and you don't necessarily know how to deal with them, or and you can't sort of call Chris in the middle of the day and say, hey, listen, I've had this fallout with somebody and I'm angry, or you can reach out on the group and sort of tell the guys in the group what's going on, or I motivated the guys last night, say, listen, start a little video meeting, ask your peers on the group to join in and have that conversation. So having the feeling that it's an undeserved punishment, or that being unable to drink is an undeserved punishment. I can see that. I can see how that could be the start of a like somebody maybe ending up ruminating on the idea that there's a lot of self-pity that comes with that and all the rest of it.
I think when it comes to recovery, what's so important is to be able to focus on what you're gaining from it. As soon as you switch to kind of what you've lost. So, for example, the guys will come in and say, well, I don't feel I can go to bars anymore, and I can't hang out in the pubs, and I can't do A, B, C, and D. If that's going to be your focus, then it's going to be easy to kind of see how you can start slipping and sliding down your way back down to relapse. But if you focus on...
Sorry, can I just stop you for a second? It sounds like you're breaking up. I just wanted the internet to catch up for a second. Okay, go ahead.
All right. So to be in that place where you're able to focus on what you're gaining from the process, So you're gaining clarity of thought. You're able to kind of find your dreams again. You're able to kind of establish proper relationships with people again. You're able to heal yourself, and in doing so, heal your relationships with others. That's a massive gain. And I think it's kind of also about that focus, being able to focus on saying, this is what I'm gaining from my recovery. Because if your constant focus is on the negative stuff, on the ach, shame, poor me, then it's kind of easy to slip into that place. Well, I might as well just go have another drink.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Stefan, we were talking about that last night as well. There was, and the last meeting that we had with the inpatients, there were a couple of people that were saying, well, what is it that I'm losing? Or what is it that you guys felt that you lost as a result of coming into recovery? And my response was very much along the lines of what you said, Chris. It's I think the focus needs to shift to what it is that you're going to gain. I mean, it's a new adventure. You're going to be gaining new friends. You're going to be gaining sort of doing new activities. So it doesn't necessarily need to center around the negativity, like you said.
And I think that for me is one of the exciting parts about working in this place is that you get to this point where people actually start to see, you know what, I can see a difference in my life going forward. So for example, somebody kind of comes in and says, I can't see any way I can live my life without alcohol, without drugs. They kind of, their whole mindset is just kind of put in a box. Yeah. And one of the things that the process does is it kind of bursts you out of that box. You start to see new opportunities. You start to see things about saying, well, I can achieve this. I can kind of move my life forward again. And that for me is the most exciting thing to see.
Yeah. Okay, Chris, I think it looks like we're out of time here, man.
Okay.
So thanks very much, Chris. I really appreciate it. So I think with that, I'm gonna take you out of the studio here. Thank you again, Chris. We'll see you for the next round, eh?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Take care. Cheers.
Okay, bye. Okay, Stefan, sorry, man. Thanks for joining us. Hey, so listen, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to the intermission quickly because our first 20 minutes is up on the public channels. So anybody that wants to join them, so we're going to go over strictly to the Mariab Cafe. So anybody on there that wants to participate with a higher degree of anonymity and privacy, you're welcome to hop on. I see there are a couple of people watching. Thank you to everybody on the public channels that's been watching. And with that, I'm going to switch over to the intermission. I'll see you in the Mariab Cafe, Stefan, and we can chat some more.
Sharp.
Cool.